What's good? Ramon Carter here, and this is part 2 of the ZOE life, or the abundant life. In part 1, we talked about the first 2 pillars. We talked about an understanding of inspiration, which is pillar number 1, that you're formed and you're the masterpiece, right, of the creator of the universe. We talked about having imagination, and that is building a life, building goals that are centered around your purpose and passion, right, so that you can pull yourself into the life that you were designed for. The fourth phase, or the fourth pillar, or third phase is information. That's right. Once you understand who you're created to be, once you begin to envision that life and have it on the forefront of your imagination and the forefront of your mind, and you're taking it from your head, right, to your subconscious, your heart, and so that you can see it in your hand. Now you need information. You need to know what it is that you need to do, right, to become the person that you're seeking to become. Now, in this phase, we don't want to talk about how. In this phase, we only talk about what. What do you need to do, right? What do you need to study? What do you need to read? What certifications do you need, right? What next level training do you need? What leadership training do you need? What counseling or coaching or mentoring do you need, right, to be able to become the person, right, that you seek to become? Because you're not quite yet that person. You're an acorn who's becoming the oak. Everything that acorn needs to become the oak is inside, is genetically inbred into that acorn. But you have to place that in the soil so that it grows, right? So in this phase right now, what do you need to do? What do you need to learn? What do you need to study? What habits do you need to break, right? This is the phase where you got to figure that out. This is the phase where you got to seek out those things that are going to help you align yourself with who you're created to be. This is the phase where you got to find that mentoring. This is the phase where you got to find that coaching, where you have to find that accountability, right? So that you can give yourself every chance, right, to set great goals, right? Not only to set them, but to achieve them. And in order to do that, you have to have information. You have to know where you are so that you know where you're going, so that you can design this thing so that you can constantly be moving forward, right? And once you do that, once you know what it is you need to do, once you got the information, once you know how it is, or what it is that you need to do to become who you want to become, then that's when we move into the fourth phase, or the fourth pillar, and that is discipline. Right? This is the most hard phase for most people, because this is the phase, this is the pillar where you actually have to do the work. This is the phase where you have to go to bed a little bit earlier. We have to wake up a little bit earlier. We have to turn the TV off. We have to turn the phone off, turn social media off, where you might have to turn down, going out with your friends for a little bit, because this is the part where where the rubber meets the road, where you have to put in that sweat equity. You can believe all you want. You can envision all you want, but without work, your belief, without work, your faith in something is not going to move forward. It's going to die, right? You have to put that elbow grease in. You have to put the time in, right? You have to begin what Pastor Guidance calls deep work, which means you have to dive deep into the things that you need to do, deep into the things that you figured out in the information phase. And this is the most difficult phase for most people, other than the first phase, which is just believing that you can do these things. Right? Because when the rubber meets the road, people don't want to put in the work. But let me ask you this. By not putting in the work, how are you going to live that abundant life? Without putting in the work, how are you going to live that ZOE life? That life where everything is clicking on all cylinders. You're not going to be able to, right? There's always going to be some conflict in your life when you're outside of your authentic identity. There's always going to be some conflict in your life when you're not in your garden, that place where your genius is released. And this discipline phase is the phase that puts you in your garden. This discipline phase is the place that you get to where your genius is released. And once your genius is released, then you begin to grow. Once your genius is released, then you begin to affect change. Once your genius is released, then you begin to add value to the world, which then ups your earning potential, right? We talked about the compensation law in a previous video. You can go back and check that out. But the more value you add, the more irreplaceable you are, the more you do what it is you're uniquely designed to do, then the more your pocketbook will see the effects of that. But you have to think value add first. You have to think service first. You have to think doing the things that are going to cause your fruit to grow so that others need your fruit, so that others want your fruit, so that others are nourished by your fruit. And then you begin to see the growth in your pocketbook. Then you begin to see the growth in your influence. Then you begin to see the growth in the power of change that you can affect, right? Because you're living according to who you were uniquely and created and designed to be. Listen, this is Ramon Carter with Gut Check. As always, I thank you for listening to me and taking this time out. You know, it's important that we live according to our authentic identity. There's so much going on in the world that causes people to be down. The suicide rate is up. You know, the hopelessness of people is high right now. And the only way to have hope, the only way to live a life according how you want to live it is to tap into who you were created to be. The only way to stop the conflict and the resistance, right, that life brings about is when you're living according to who you were designed to be. A fish in water is beautiful. A fish in the tree makes no sense. If you're a fish, get in that water. If you're a bird, then you get in that tree. But do what it is you were uniquely designed to do, right? As always, I leave you with these 3 thoughts. Think abundance, focus on growth, create, never compete. Thanks, and God bless.